Let's talk about this 21st century and what it implies. When I mentioned 2025, I also mentioned some decades that have been running already. And this is the century of rediscovery and self doubt. Some people might say this is the century of change, but it is actually the century where we tend to second guess ourselves the most. Because in every period of time, we tend to second guess and question some social norms around. Of course, that is also influenced by environmental distress, situations that happen around us, such as wars, industrial changes, social norms itself, and so on. But what's going on in here is that we're going back to our teenage years, all of us. We are on a period of time where we tend to say, why if these kind of things that my parents or grandparents tend to tell me, what if it isn't this way? Or what if it shouldn't be this way? What would happen if? And all those ifs are in a gray, large cloud in the sky right now, accumulating each other, going against each other, some of them, while aligning together some of the ones that are left. And of course, we aren't taking these random events that are happening around us as something lightly. This will always encourage some kind of dogma that we have and also ideas and thoughts collectively and individually. So we are in a century of constant self doubt that we had during our teenage years. And people tend to say, like, oh no, this is something that we only tend to go by when we are like teenagers in high school, secondary school. And then we tend to go by the end of each decade to have some kind of crisis that is going to allow us to second guess ourselves, but less than before. Less than those kind of 5, 6 years that we were trying to figure out who are we? Why am I doing here? What do I want to do? And related. But we're having those kind of thoughts in our 20s, 21, 22, 23, 24, 31, 32, 33, 34, and so on. Like, what's going on? What's going on nowadays that we need to second guess ourselves so constantly, more than before? So we stop just accepting things as they are, and we just started to see not only changes around, but new ways of thinking things should be. And something that could separate some decade to another, that we start acting towards it, even if it is wrong, because you're also in a period of time where wrong is also accepted. Mistakes are accepted. Not know what to do is something that is accepted, something that was judged in the past in a more severe way. Nowadays, we can commit mistakes without being judged. Well, that is the goal, right? We're trying to take a trip to that stage where we can be who we are without being judged. But in order to go there, we need to commit so many mistakes, and also we need to be lost some kind of the road multiple times. So we are trying to normalize in this century those mistakes and being confused and not knowing what to do numerous times. We're telling like it's okay, you feel bad. It's okay you don't know what to do. It's okay you feel frustrated. And let me tell you that this can be something that is affecting you because of your environment, your family, your friends. And that could also end up in anxiety, depression, social distress, social anxiety, and others. Hmm. We are trying to normalize things that, in fact, in theory, aren't things to take lightly and categorize as normal, right? But what is curious is that nowadays we are trying to say abnormal is normal, imperfection is perfection, confusion is also a clue to something new, to something else, to a new truth. And this is what this century is giving me. We're going back to those teenage dreams, teenage thoughts, teenage goals, and we're failing each part of the road without being so judgmental about ourselves. Because when you are judgmental about yourself, you are also towards others. And then we tend to hide and to close in terms of you showing who you are to the world. And that is showing how damaged you are, showing how vulnerable you are, showing how shy you are, frustrated, lacking of love, and showing that we're just some kind of jars that are fragmented, that are imperfect, and will never be. And of course, you aren't just a piece of floral jar for sure, but we are humans. We will have scars all this way. And that isn't bad. But we sometimes people want to hide those scars and teach other people how to hide them without knowing that, yeah, that could be something part of, that could be like part of the process of just coming forward those scars. But why hiding those? Why not having these licks on our head telling like, hey, what if something that I did in the past wasn't as good as I might have thought? What if I don't want to work here anymore, even though I've been like 10 years? What if I don't want to pursue family per se, a family towards having kids, being married? What if I don't want to go to college and do something else? So we are allowing ourselves to having doubts without the fear of being judged. And you might tell me like, hey, Stefania, I mean, we've been always like being like second guessing ourselves. We've been so reflective in the past and now. I mean, we have like a bunch of philosophers, people trying to guess what's on the air in our minds, in our souls. The conception of soul wasn't something from today, right? It was something from before. And yes, you're totally right. But what happened to the people that started to speak so freely about themselves and how discontent they were with the things around? They ended up pretty badly because free of speech and free of telling how you feel itself was condemned. You were either suffering some kind of illness of the soul or you were basically sentenced to death. And that is something that continued over and over the years. As we enter into our previous century, of course, some things weren't taken as severe as before in terms of consequences, to be clear, but the conception of things that should be normalized and things that should be condemned, even though not taken into a legal sphere or political sphere, we're also seen as something bad, pretty really punished by society, punished by your friends around, punished by your family, your neighborhood, your workspace. And it isn't like a condemnation about just the state and legal aspects or what is just accepted on a state itself. It is something what is accepted around. So we've been also against social norms for so long, but we weren't able to even speak about it without being pointed out. Now we're having this freedom. And yes, having that kind of freedom, there wasn't something normalized in the past, that wasn't something common, can be also overwhelmed. Like, what if I just say too much? What if I don't say the right things? But it's fine because then I can commit like 100 mistakes and it will be alright, right? Perhaps, perhaps not. I think over the time we're going to start setting those boundaries. So now that we know that before was like too restrictive, and now that we have more freedom, probably that some parts could be too much. And then we really start like setting up the limits and not crossing those borders after we cross them for sure, because as we are humans, we tend to know by mistakes, by trial and error, and that's totally okay. But I know that we have like lots of freedom. We also tend to go forward the mile, and that happens. Same as when you are restricted too much, we just tend to go like lower and lower and lower in some kind of aspects. But tell me, what do you think about it?